Hello, welcome to Yoga in Your Living Room. My name is Brentan, and this practice is core strength for beginners. Let's go ahead and get started. Flat on our backs. If you got a ponytail or something, you can take that out so that the skull can lay flat. We can rest with the soles of the feet close to the pelvis. And I always like to then press down, lift the pelvis, and scooch it away from the ribs so that right away we know that the spine is getting nice and long. You can kind of let your knees sway a little bit left and right, not too much so it's not a very dramatic movement. But as they go a few inches to the right, soles of the feet can stay flat on the floor and then they can come back over and to the left. And you might start to feel the lowest part of your abdomen actually right where the legs plug into the pelvis, that flesh on the pelvis side. You might feel those lower belly muscles, the transverse abdominis, start to contract. And so as we come back through center, let's start to feel the lowest part of our belly very specifically. So we'll take some reclined cat-cow here. On the inhale breath, we're gonna overemphasize the arch in the low back. We're gonna kind of arc the ribs ever so slightly away from the pelvis. And as we do this, it is a movement of the bone, but we don't want to feel that any of the abdomen flesh or organs are pushing up towards the ceiling. In fact, all of that is still with gravity's help coming towards the back body, but the shape of the bones is taking you more into a back bend shape. Next time you breathe out, let's do the opposite of that. Let's scoop the tailbone towards the backs of the legs and press the low back into the floor. Root into your feet. Inhale ever so lightly. Emphasize the low back curve for cow pose. And exhale, round to the tailbone, press the low back flat into the mat, cat. Let's go 3 more times. And then when you're finished, you can come on back to center and rest. Let the knees fall in on each other. Maybe the legs widen, the feet widen a little bit wider. Take deep, slow breaths. For me, core isn't necessarily like a set of muscles or anything like that. It's more of a network, an integrated network where every piece of the body understands its role and responsibility given the shape that we're pursuing, and that in that there's kind of a total connectivity so that you feel your pinky toe as much as you might feel your stomach muscles, as much as you might feel your shoulders. So what we're looking for today is really intelligence and understanding of how our body likes to be moved. And that will create strength in the core area of the body as a byproduct. So let's take the soles of the feet in front of the pelvis again. And this time, actually, let's take the knees into the chest and we'll kind of start to roll a little bit. So we're just gonna roll to the right, roll to the left. And you might feel that you're kind of like an egg cracking open or something like that. We want to turn ourselves into a tight little package so that the belly stays compact, the spine stays compact, and that as we roll a little bit from one side to the next, we're really keeping the whole lower body in union. So none of that's really changing or adjusting. I got some weird feelings going on because I'm rolling on this mic box. And when you do this, you should actually feel that there's a lot of teamwork happening in the belly area, in the side waist area, maybe even in the back to kind of hold everything in position. So the next time you go over to the left, let's go actually a little bit more, as if we're actually going to pursue that twist. But we're going really, really slowly so that we're asking our body integration. Once we get to a threshold here, use your arms, open the right arm more down to the ground, press into it, make sure you're breathing, and as we pursue this strength, soften your face. Let's come back up through center. Take the hands onto the legs and kind of guide them in some knee circles, opening and closing, so that you can relax through those inner thigh muscles. And probably what we'll feel and experience by the end of this practice is a lot more strength through the legs. So come back through center, hug the knees into the belly so that the tailbone rounds off the floor just a little. And we're gonna shift side to side just a few more times in order to activate that integration, that little compact package in the lower body, where the relationship stays the same between the legs and the pelvis and the spine, even though the ribs and the upper spine are rotating. Now, go over to the right, and again, it's kind of like half capacity here. The left side of your body is going to have to pick up a little bit, hold and compact with those belly muscles, use your arms, breathe and relax your face. Then let's go ahead, come on back through center, and again relax. Roll out through the legs a little bit. Soles of the feet can now rest down onto the ground. Again, reset your pelvis so that you feel length through the entire spine and you feel pretty neutral there. And now we want a neutral pelvis here. That's really the secret to the core. For me, it's kind of like every yoga pose I go into, the way that the core factors into it for me is understanding how to set my pelvis and then using the muscles around that area to support that structure. So remember we were doing the pelvic tilts of the cat-cow. You can do a couple more of those there until you can kind of land at neutral. Neutral is where the low back is just ever so slightly lifted, but the frontal hip bones are still kind of flat down. Now from here, we're going to keep this relationship the same, and in fact you might find that it's easier to activate a foot press down and forward because we want to keep the left leg exactly as it is. We want to keep the pelvis, both sides of it exactly as it is. You can rest your hands on your pelvis. Sometimes feeling the core physically through the hands can be really helpful. And then we'll pull the right knee into the belly, and then we'll tap it back down to the floor. And let's do this a couple of times so we can really start to feel this. And we're trying to leave our pelvis alone, and we're trying to leave our shoulders alone too. So something I noticed with myself is that when the lower body isn't doing as much work as it should be doing, and it needs to do a lot of work because the thighs and the pelvis, those are the heaviest bones in our body. So we got to get those surrounding muscles really strong. But I find when I'm kind of a little half-assing it down there, that my shoulders will start to tense up. So we want to stay broad and open through the chest here. You can relax the right foot down to the floor. Give a light press of both feet down and forward, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So let's stay integrated and aligned through the right leg, through both sides of the pelvis as you lift the left knee up to the belly, and then you dip those toes back down into the water. And we'll do this about 10 times on this side as well. Slow, controlled movement. And if you feel that your right leg is doing a lot of work, that's perfect, because actually the right leg should be doing about as much work as the left leg is. It's just doing it in a different form. When this side feels about equal to that of the other, let's rest. Let's take the soles of the feet together. Let's let the knees widen open without moving the pelvis, so that instead of really like arcing the back here, which will oftentimes not feel so nice, instead of us doing that, what we're doing is we're opening through the front of the pelvis where the legs plug on in. Press into the mat with your feet and take your tailbones toward your heels. Before we come on up, let's open the shoulders so you can do kind of like a snow angel situation on the floor, all the way up overhead. Notice if that renegotiated your pelvis, because a lot of times changing something up here will redistribute the bones. So take the bones as neutral as they were, maybe clasp hands overhead to open the armpit area. Let gravity take the bones of the arms to the floor. On each inhale, this might sound counterintuitive, but on each inhale, feel your navel, your belly button, hug to the floor, and then through the chamber of the ribs toward the heart and the skull. Sometimes other teachers might cue like hollow out the belly or something like that. I think that's the same. We're getting at the same thing there. Let's release the arms. Let's gather the legs together. One at a time, draw the knees into the chest and roll the tailbone off the floor so you feel your abdomen engage. And again, we're trying to stay as a package unit here. And it's just trial and error. It's just us asking something and watching what happens in return. That's the fun of the practice. So we're going to start rolling up and down the length of the spine. Ah, there it is. I finally got my package. So it took like 4 rolls before everything kind of clicked in and I could stay in one shape through the whole movement. Okay, come on up to a seat. We're going to keep working here. So hopefully what we're feeling here is that the belly is turned on. It's warmed, but it's not fatigued. And that's something that's really important, at least for me, is because I don't like that kind of too much core work. I feel like I can do it for a second and then I go into poor form. So we're looking for things that we can sustain a little bit longer so that we can build that strength and depth. Okay. If you're really tight in the muscles of the backs of your body, like your hamstrings and stuff, you're not probably going to feel so good seated upright. You're going to feel like you're slumping to the back of your mat. And so just be honest, you're at home. You don't have to like feel embarrassed because you're around everyone who can like put their foot behind their head. So what we're trying to do here is integrity, pelvis spine connection, so that everything is kind of a straight. You're sitting up straight, even if that sitting up straight is kind of leaning back as if you were sunbathing a little bit. Totally okay. Then from here, we'll walk the feet in and see, did that do anything? Did it crumple us anymore? And so we're looking to then back out and do it again, and only go so far as we're not crumpling. So your feet might be farther away. If you're a little bit more open, you might be able to take your feet closer to your pelvis. And then it's really your decision here. Do you feel like, given your belly strength and your back strength, you can take the hands up off the floor and take away that support? Try it out. See if now what's holding more for me are the muscles surrounding the thigh bone. So as the thighs go into the pelvis, some inner thighs, some outer hips here, and then hugging behind the legs, we can see if we can find a balance point on the sitting bones. So rocking back a little. And from here, let's see if we can just take some like butterfly situations with the legs. So opening them and closing. And as this happens, we're trying to lift out of the pelvis. Take the buttocks both down, but lift out of the pelvis. Breathe into your back body. Open your chest. Get your ears in line with your spine. If it makes sense for you to hug and lift and hover your shins, you can take them more towards parallel. You can also play around with taking out the support for a moment. Beautiful. Cross your feet, roll forward to hands and knees pose. Hands and knees pose. Press yourself around in some circles, so some feel-good motions, movements. And if you're going in circles, make sure you get both directions. After doing that integrative work, you might feel that more effortlessly, naturally, you're staying more in a package position here too. Let's come on forward, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, tuck the toes under. We're going to press down with the fingers more than the wrists and see if we can hold a tabletop position, but simply hover the knees an inch. Lift the front body into the back body here, root out through the fingers and get long from tailbone to skull. The release is down dog. Slow motion, pressing up and back with the hips. Heels descend towards the ground. Upper thigh bones, the outer upper thigh bones, move up into the hip sockets like really sharp pencils. Take the next few exhales out through the mouth. Let's roll forward to high plank pose, top of a push-up where the shoulders are over the wrists. You might need to wiggle the feet back so that the heels go more over the ankles. And we're going to go back and forth, tracking from down dog to plank pose. And you are welcome to bend your knees and scoop forward. We're really just trying to feel our bodies. Let's even drop on down to the knees from here. So we're in tabletop position. And if you want to kind of roll out through the wrist, in fact, that might feel nice. Maybe even tuck the toes under, sit on back on the heels if that's okay. This can get dramatic if you haven't done it in a while or forever. So release if and when you need. And until then, let's roll out through the wrists. Okay, tabletop position, hands and knees. This is typically one of the first core poses that is taught to beginners, which is so interesting to me because it is, at the end of the day, so challenging. So we want to keep the front of the body lifting into the back of the body and the neck in line with the spine so that the heart is actually closer to the floor than the chin is. Now press out through the hands. We're going to see, can we keep this package here? And in fact, it's even like the knees are kind of scrunching toward each other on the mat. And that will ride up all the way into that lower abdomen. So as if your two frontal hip bones could cinch toward each other like a drawstring. That's the package that we want to keep as we play around with lifting the right leg up. It doesn't have to go straight. We're just lifting it away from the floor and seeing what happens. A lot of the other bones renegotiated their spots in place. So we see if we can get the neutral bone alignment and then press back through that right foot towards straight. When you're ready, soften that right knee down to the floor. You can always take breaks between sides. It's important, I think, to approach each side that we do with the same frame of mind, same mentality, so that we're able to get the same benefits from it. So come on back to tabletop position. Spread your attention into your whole body evenly. Now it's as if the knees kind of are scrunching toward each other. That targets the lower belly, which is going to try to hold the pelvis in place here. Tailbone stays into the body as we gently lift the left leg up. And play its edge towards straight. and in your own time, left knee can come back down towards the ground. From here, we can take a high kneeling position. So coming all the way up, reach the arms all the way up to the sky, and then exhale, hands down at the side. Take the tailbone into the body and forward. This may even trigger a little stretch of that front of the hips there, which should feel really nice after all of that. Alrighty, from here, last pose, we'll take the big toes together. Let's space the knees as wide as is comfortable. Sit back on the heels. And if you want some more support, you can take some blankets underneath the knees or in between your leg bones here if your booty isn't coming down far enough. And then we'll begin to walk ourselves forward to child's pose. You can have your arms in front of you by your forehead, or you can layer them back by your sides. Circularize your tailbone towards your heels. Take your navel towards the spine and then through the chamber of the ribs on the inhales. Weight the forehead right at the hairline so you feel that the back of the body is coming more into this nice rainbow bow shape. Soften your face, relax your jaw. And if you want a little bit more rest than this today, then go ahead, come on down into your back. Close your eyes. You can even put like a towel over it or an eye pillow to really change your sensory inputs. I hope this has been helpful, that you can use this in some of your other yoga practices, even just background information for how to approach movement in other times and feel confident in your strength. Thanks so much for joining. Have a wonderful day.